Oh, hey everyone. Yeah, welcome back. Good to see you again. You're looking well. Get yourself a seat up front and get a drink. We're going to get started. Because, yes, there's a show. It's all been happening and now you want to know. But before we can start, we must begin with hello. My name is Sean, your host and fellow. Now grab hold your beverage, your mind just as quick. We're building up for our best sip. So join me now for the greatest pleasure, where we unwind this world together. It's time now. It's time for the sip. Let's do it now. Let's do it quick. Go! Ah, delicious. Well, a group of seaman high school students in Topeka ditched the usual limo for prom and rolled up in a 27-foot-long Oscar Mayer Wienermobile instead. One of the teams spotted the giant hot dog on wheels in a parking lot near a Sonic, got the idea and actually convinced the hot dogger driver, nicknamed Meatloaf Maggie, to give them a free ride to the prom. The driver checked a schedule, Oscar Mayer said yes, and the kids showed up to the dance in full wiener style, waving from the window like rock stars. I mean, Oscar Mayer must have been aware of the image that having a Wienermobile full of seamen, high school students, would bring and had to catch up with them afterwards for a good laugh. From ground news, the US military supports a launch of Project Freedom in the Strait of Hormuz, CENTCOM says. US Central Command announced it will support President Donald Trump's Project Freedom starting on Monday to restore freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz for merchant vessels. Project Freedom includes military support with guided missile destroyers, over 100 aircraft, unmanned platforms, and 15,000 service members to assist neutral foreign vessels trapped in the strait and on low supplies. President Trump described the operation as a humanitarian gesture benefiting global trade and unrelated to the Middle East conflict, warning Iran against interference. Iranian officials warned that any US interference in the Strait of Hormuz's maritime regime would violate the ceasefire amidst ongoing diplomatic talks to end the conflict. So, yeah, I'm not sure what Iran would do here. They don't really have any ships, so perhaps the attacks would be coming from the coastline, but that would just almost certainly reveal their positions and for that part of the coastline to be wiped out. Iran is escalating at a stage where it almost certainly be viewed as an attack on the international community, not just the US. So, especially with some of those ships being stranded for a few months now. So we'll see how that turns out. From the BBC, European leaders now are descending on Armenia for two unprecedented summits in a country long considered Russia's closest ally in the South Caucasus. This is quite unusual, as Armenia is a member of Russian President Vladimir Putin's Eurasian Economic Union, and Moscow hosts a military base on Armenian soil. On Monday, more than 30 European leaders and Canada's Prime Minister will take part in European Political Community summit in the capital of Yerevan. Armenia is looking for closer ties with the EU. In March 2025, Armenia's parliament passed a law to launch the process of joining the EU. In August, the leaders signed a landmark agreement with at the White House, aimed at ending the decades of conflict between them. There, they also announced the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity, which is a major connectivity corridor which will run along Armenia's border with Iran, linking the region to the European markets. But Putin reminded Pashinyan that his EU membership ambitions were incompatible with the Eurasian Economic Union membership. It's not possible to be simultaneously in a customs union with both the European Union and the Eurasian Economic Union. It is simply impossible by definition. Armenia is heavily dependent on Russia for energy resources. Russia sells gas to Armenia for $177 per 1,000 cubic meters. And in Europe it costs $600, so about a quarter of the price at the moment. So it's overwhelmingly likely that Armenia will start to see their energy costs increase. Perhaps they could offset that by opening the corridor, opening this new trade corridor, but that doesn't really exist yet, and it's just paperwork at the moment. Meanwhile, over on X, Owen Gregorian is reporting from Zero Hedge That Blue Sky goes in full panic mode after Trump fired Trump officials' anti-ICE website doxes almost 18,000 leftists. Nearly 18,000 left-wing activists on Blue Sky are in panic mode this weekend after an anti-ICE activist website launched by a fired Trump official exposed their personal details due to vulnerable connection. The website, GTFO ICE, was created by former DHS Chief of Staff and Google security executive Miles Taylor as a rapid response network that allowed people to sign up for alerts about proposed ICE facilities in their area. Taylor, who launched the website in partnership with Project Cellbox, appeared last week on the Rachel Maddow show to announce their rapid response network to stop ICE prison camps before they start. Needless to say, Blue Sky is in full panic. The full-on exposed API has revealed thousands of people who signed up for the GTFO ICE site, their full names, their phone numbers and zip codes, one ex-user noted. To sum up, the same people who wanted to dox the ICE agents may have just doxed themselves, thanks to the sloppy website work by anti-Trump operative Miles Taylor, who's also the Google security chief, who should have known better. The obvious question is, did Taylor accidentally honeypot his own comrades? Then a story over on Daily Galaxy, which is quite cool. Archaeologists discover 80-ton stones beneath the surface, believed to be the remains of one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. More than 1,600 years after its disappearance, massive stones from the lighthouse of Alexandria are being recovered from the Mediterranean seabed. Archaeologists have brought up massive stone blocks tied to one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. In the waters of Alexandria, a submerged site known for decades is now yielding some of the most striking elements. The Pharos project reports that 22 monumental stone blocks linked to the lighthouse have been lifted from the seabed after years of underwater exploration. It was built in the 3rd century BCE, and the lighthouse guided ships through dangerous coastal waters for centuries before its destruction. Its remains were scattered underwater and has now been carefully documented and analysed. So, the northern coast of Egypt is notoriously flat and low-lying, with a few natural landmarks. Approaching ships face shallow shoals, submerged reefs, hidden sandbars, and a featureless shoreline that made it easy to miss the harbour and run aground, especially at night and in poor visibility. During the daytime, its massive height, which is estimated to be at about 100 to 120 metres, and the white stone construction made it a highly visible landmark for some 20 to 30 miles. Smoke from a fire added to the extra daytime signal. Then at night time, a continuous fire, like fueled by oil and wood, was reflected and projected by large polished bronze and reflective mirrors, created a powerful beam visible far out to the sea. Ancient sources described it as a second sun guiding mariners. So the Great Lighthouse of Alexandria, also known as Pharos, was not destroyed by war, fire, or human action. It fell gradually due to the series of powerful earthquakes over the several centuries. It stood for roughly 1,500 to 1,600 years before becoming a ruin by the mid-14th century. It's quite a remarkable story, really. The Great Lighthouse is one of those great wonders of the world that was lost in time. Existed before Christ, and they had the technology back then to lift and manipulate these gigantic blocks. The granite came from further up the river and was floated down the Nile for hundreds of miles to the site from Aswan quarries. 80 tons is still quite a lot to lift even nowadays, but they managed to do it back then with just simple human and animal effort and some pulleys and ropes. It was a real feat of human engineering back then. They're busy scanning and cataloguing the pieces, so it'll be amazing to see what a digital reconstruction would look like one day. And that brings me to the end of my notes. So all I have to say is, may the 4th be with you. We all have a force and a power inside of us, a combination of talents that is unique to us. Scott Adams would call that a talent stack. Sometimes it may be running under the covers because we don't really think about it or really use it as much. But if you develop and nurture those skills every day, the momentum will strengthen and refine your skill stack. As the old saying goes, use the force. And with that, I wish you well, and I'll say see you later. Cheers.